All right, welcome to a Bateman Horn Center resource. Today we're hearing from Galen Warden, the mother of an adult son with very severe ME/CFS. And so today she's going to talk with us about her experience caring for her son and give guidance for others who may be in this experience as caregivers and as people with lived experience themselves. So welcome, Galen. Thank you so much for being willing to be here with us today and share your experience and your expertise with our community.
Thank you, Angela. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about the importance of logistics. When people have severe ME, especially, the logistics can really cause problems if they go wrong. Some of the things we're going to cover are medical, healthcare proxy, power of attorney, disability, the kinds of disability, and a little guidance on how to get disability, transportation, which is so important, especially for severe ME, how to get to appointments on a gurney or in a wheelchair. We're going to talk about accommodations at medical appointments, and this includes getting protection from light and sound, as well as speaking to your doctor who might not be familiar with ME. And then lastly, we're going to talk about caregiver support, getting a caregiver, the different kinds of caregiving options. So let's just dive in. The importance of logistics can't be overemphasized for severe ME. Every single detail in these different aspects of care, which I call tactical or practical, can make a difference, and one misstep can lower someone's baseline permanently. So you are allowed to be very vocal and very specific about what you need. No one else is going to understand the risk that doing this wrong is going to carry for your person or for you. So you have to be the one that sort of takes the lead. You can be kind and factual, educational in your approach, but you have to be firm. You cannot give the impression that these things are optional. It's not optional that your person is protected from sound or protected from, a bright light shining in their face. Whatever they have to protect them is for a reason, and this disease is neurological. So don't worry about explaining what ME is to a receptionist or a nurse or people that you come in contact with, the person, driving the van. You don't have to teach them what ME is. Just say, my person has a severe neurological disease or condition, a severe neurological condition. They are, then you come up with your situation, very sensitive to light, sound, odors. So whatever it is that you're trying to explain that they need protection from, say it very matter-of-factly with authority. Don't be apologetic. Don't say, I'm sorry that, could you please quiet down? I'm sorry. No, this is not optional, and it's not courtesy. It's a necessity. It's a medical necessity. So if you say they have an extreme neurological condition, they must be protected from light and sound. And then they're going to see them. I mean, look at this picture of my son. He's got the eye mask and the hat because it's very bright in this room. So he's got the noise canceling headphones, and under that, he has the foam earplugs. So when they see this person come in, they're going to say, what's going on? This is really unusual. And you don't want to act like, you don't want to give them any excuse to think, oh, they're just very sensitive. That's not what's going on. It's neurological. So here they've put James in. I went in ahead and I said, my son needs to be protected from noise, etc. Is there somewhere quiet and private that he could wait for his appointment? Well, in this particular case, they put him in a room that's under construction. So they said, oh yeah, we've got this room in the back. So then I go back out to the ambulance and I get the guys to bring my son directly to this special room. And they had no problem accommodating us, because you have to go in and just be calm and kind and understanding that this is unique and different. And, it's not something that you have to get excited about or get upset about. Don't be hysterical. They'll write you right off. Their ears will close. Just be matter of fact and practical about it. Now, the first technical legal type of thing that I want to bring up is one of the most important things you can do. I did not know about healthcare power of attorney. Janet Defoe taught me about this. That's Whitney Defoe's mother. I didn't have it. And anytime I wanted to talk to somebody about my son, who is an adult, I had to try to explain to them, no, he can't come to the phone. No, he can't give you permission to talk to me, because I can't talk to him. He can't use a phone. He was very severe. So I got this very simple piece of paper. It simply says, my son's name. I appoint Galen Warden, my mother, to be my healthcare power of attorney. You don't need a lawyer. This is not financial. This has nothing to do with their finances, their bank account. It's not permission to control anything. It's simply permission to have access to all of their medical data and their doctors, make appointments, find out lab results. The simplest things are barred if you don't have this. So just get it, very easy. The image you see on the right is the Utah form, which I hunted down because Bateman Horn is in Utah. If you go to my website at the bottom of the screen, you'll see severemecfs.com and /resources. And at the bottom of that page, you'll see this PDF. Download it, fill it out. This one happens to also have advanced directives, which is fine to fill out. The one in South Carolina does also. They don't all. Some states call it a proxy. And in that case, they usually don't have the, directives for end of life, et cetera. But whatever your state has, very simple, fill it out. You don't need an attorney. You need a couple witnesses. That's all you need. And then that needs to be provided to every company, caregiver, transportation people, doctor office, hospital that you interact with. So the first time you go there, you hand it to them and ask them to add it to the records or scan it, have a PDF and ask, send it to people, say, please add it to our record, to this person's file, so that when you call, you can say, I have a healthcare power of attorney. I'm calling to find out about my daughter, son. You have it in the file. 99% of the time, they won't check the file. They won't slow you down. They'll just say, oh, okay. And they'll talk to you. So do this. If you haven't got it, you might not feel like it's necessary. Oh, they can talk, etc. Doesn't matter. You're going to want someone to be able to hunt down lab results, etc., besides the patient. Okay, disability. I've seen so much variety in what people have and what people know about this. It's very important to cover the nuances. So that's what I'm going to do for you now. There are two kinds of disability. SSDI is Social Security Disability Insurance. The other kind is Supplemental Security Income. The first one, SSDI, is only for people who have worked enough in the US, this is all the US, to pay into disability. So for example, you worked for 10 years, you made X amount of money, and every paycheck, a little bit was pulled out for Social Security. That money is what we're talking about. That's your investment in this insurance plan for disability. When you need disability, you become disabled, the Social Security Administration will look at your work history and determine how much money they're going to give you based on that work history. If you become disabled, say you became disabled in 2018, but it takes you until 2020 or 2025 to get your disability, going back to that date of when you first became disabled, you first applied, is the beginning of your disability. And with SSDI, they will pay you retroactively. They will give you a lump sum for the amount of disability they should have been paying you before you became approved. That's really important because that's how you can get an attorney. SSDI disability is the only one that gives you attorneys, or that attorneys want to help you with. If you are looking for an attorney and you have and you're going for SSDI, you have a work history, the attorney will give you a contract to sign, which says they're going to take 40% of that big lump sum, or whatever it is. So you're going to read that, see what percentage they're taking. You're going to agree to that. You're going to let them work at getting you disability, doing the appeal, going before the judge. If you do a second appeal and you have a court appearance, they'll take care of all of that happily, because they have a big paycheck coming if you have been disabled for a little while. So that's one kind of disability. The second kind, SSI, is for people who have not worked. They don't have a lot of money. It's really based on the poor people's disability. And these people get Medicaid versus Medicare. Medicaid covers pretty much everything you need in terms of transportation, home health visits, doctors, hospitals. It's good coverage. The income that they give you is much less than the SSDI because it's not based on any work history. So for example, my son gets around $500 a month. He would not be able to live on that. It's helpful, but the real win for him is that his transportation, which is $2,500 a trip, we'll talk about that later, to MUSC, our local hospital, is completely covered. It's free. So all of the benefits that come with Medicaid are well worth going through the trouble of applying for SSI. Now, you're not going to be able to get a lawyer. There's no back pay. The minute you get approved is the minute you start receiving a check, well, the next month, whatever. So instead of having an attorney, anybody going for SSI may appoint a representative. This representative could be their parent, their sibling, a friend. Anybody can be their representative. And once they've assigned the representative, that person can fill out all these forms, can take all these calls, can deal with doctors, getting them to do their part for the application. So it's a great benefit to recognize that even though you're not going to have an attorney, you're still going to have help, because it's overwhelming. This whole process is very overwhelming. Most people have to do an appeal. My son was bedbound, could not even hold a cup of water when we went for disability here in South Carolina. And the nurse practitioner that had been helping us from South Carolina House Calls, coming out, visiting James, doing the GP, general practitioner type of work for us, we didn't realize she didn't believe in ME. We had no idea. I mean, here she saw my son every time she came. Well, when she filled out the medical assessment, she said that he could walk if he wanted to. And I just couldn't even believe it. So anyway, he was denied. I called the Disability Determination Services. I said, why was my son denied? He is very disabled. And she told me that the person, they don't share with you what these doctors write, but she told me the thing that made him be denied was the term, he ambulates normally. And I said, what? And she said, yes, it says on this form, he ambulates normally. So I called the nurse and I said, he was denied disability. And they told me you could edit, modify, resubmit this form so that he can get disability. And she said to me, I'm not going to modify it and resupport it. He could walk if he wanted to. And I was so dumbfounded, I got right off the phone. And of course, I was crying and everything. But we got a different nurse practitioner to come. And here's what we did. I sat down with this woman, which I had never done with the other one. I was very naive at the beginning. Don't be naive. Listen to this. I sat down with her. I had printed out the CDC, the different materials on ME. I had highlighted with a yellow marker where it talks about the sensitivity to noise and light, where it talks about, the inability to exercise and the extreme debilitating fatigue and the neurological aspect. I showed that to her. And by highlighting, I spared her reading 20 pages, but she got the point. And when she did the assessment, here's what she did. She asked James, I wasn't in the room, she had to do it alone. She asked James to push on her hand as hard as he should, not as hard as he could. And she did the same with his feet. Push against my hand with your foot as hard as you should without hurting yourself, without causing a crash, etc. Based on that, the way that she characterized that in her assessment, he got it right away. And I spoke to the people at Disability Determination Services who told me, he got it within 2 weeks, who told me this is exactly what we need. Not only did they give it to me in 2 weeks, I got a huge packet in the mail saying that they wanted to put him in a nursing home. He was so disabled. And of course, that's not what we're going to do. And I turned that down, but that nurse really did a good job of demonstrating his limitations. And that's what you need. You need those limitations demonstrated in the clinical evaluation, whatever it is you want to call it, because this is going to be a big part. They want the records, all the records, years of records, but this clinical assessment evaluation is going to be key for you because that's today, here and now. What are his limitations? And in the appeal process, of course, you may end up going to court. And sometimes that's the best thing if you've been denied, because in court, you can really demonstrate in a more empathetic, I want to say emotional, but I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't mean you start crying, but I mean you're going to appeal to the humanity of the judge and this situation that your person is in. So sometimes having to do the third appeal is fine because you will maybe more likely to get it, with a face-to-face with your representative. Maybe they can see your person for a minute in their dark room, and then that representative speaks. Here's the website on the left where you learn about disability and apply. There are a lot of links there that will help you get more information if you want to dive into all of those. And then on the right, once you click that blue button on the left, apply for disability, then you get to the page on the right, and on the bottom corner, you see SSI. And when you click on that, you get to information there. And in here is the information about a representative and these different nuances. So it's a lot of information, and a person with ME, especially severe ME, I don't think belongs on these websites looking at all this stuff. I think you're just going to crash. So hopefully you can have somebody look into this for you and get you going. All right, transportation is really important. You have to get to a doctor appointment or you have to get to a hospital. You need a way to get there without crashing, without lowering your baseline. And James could not sit up. We did not know how we were going to get him to anything when he first got sick. I was blind, just blind, ignorant, naive, going crazy trying to figure out, he had a seizure. He had a 45-minute long non-epileptic seizure from a noise. My dog barked outside of his bedroom door. And I gave my dog away for 3 months to a neighbor. We, found out about all these noise canceling headphones, and we did everything to protect him from sound. But when he had that terrifying seizure, the first thing I wanted to do was get him to a neurologist. But, I didn't know about gurney transportation. I didn't know about any of this. And I actually tried to get a neurologist to come to our house, and obviously that was a fool's errand. So no one was going to come, and he never did see a neurologist for that. We just started protecting him. In any event, this transportation is key, and doing it correctly with the least amount of stress on your person is really important. Medicaid covers unlimited gurney transportation. Medicare covers limited gurney transportation, but I have to say, James only does this 4 or 5 times a year. In either case, a doctor has to say, yes, this is medically necessary, because it's expensive. They want to know for sure you're not just on a whim saying that would be nice. So get a doctor to give you a letter that you can provide that says it's medically necessary for this person to go to his appointments via medical transportation, non-urgent medical transportation. You don't want an ambulance. You don't want an emergency ambulance besides the siren and the backup beeping and all of that stuff. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going to an appointment, not the ER. An ambulance, an urgent ambulance, a 911 call in the US will only take you to an emergency room. You don't want to do that. You're talking about triage and hours waiting and horrible, horrible. So we're talking now about, so James, he hasn't walked since 2020. He's constantly getting these ingrown toenail infections and needing surgery on his toenails, which is very sad. But we need this gurney to get him to the foot doctor. He needed care for his teeth. His, teeth were rotting in his mouth, and we hadn't had any dental care for a few years. And we needed a gurney to get him to the dental clinic at MUSC, where they gave him general anesthesia and did cleaning, x-rays, fillings, and an extraction, which was needed at that point, all under general anesthesia. But had we not had this gurney transportation, there would be no way we could have done that. So learn about this. Either Medicaid or Medicare will provide a option for you to get this through some kind of service in your state. So with our state, South Carolina, this service is provided by a logistics company called Motive Care. Motive Care is not a transportation company. It's a logistics company. Your state has its own logistics company. It might even be Motive Care. They're in a few states. Those are the people that you speak to, and that you find out what is necessary in terms of, giving them that doctor letter. And they will have a portal where you can talk about the appointment and the time of the appointment, and all of this, where you put in your address, and there will be a place for your comments. They don't have a box to check for gurney transportation in South Carolina. They just say, can the person walk? They have these kinds of questions. No. So the comment part is where I put person cannot walk, cannot sit up, cannot move themselves onto the gurney, needs a gurney. And I put all these details, and then that's in the portal, it's in his profile. So every time we schedule a ride, all that information is there. Oh, he needs a gurney. He can't get himself onto the gurney. They have to very carefully pick him up and put him on it. So use this website here if you have Medicare. Otherwise, work with your Medicaid in your state and go to non-urgent medical transport, non-urgent, gurney transportation, whatever you want to search in your Medicaid portal for your state, and it will get you this information. There are private companies, and I have used them plenty because Medicaid drivers sometimes cancel. So if my son was scheduled for this huge dental clinic I'm talking about. He had the dental hygienist, the dental surgeon, he had anesthesia, he had the x-ray people, and he had the dentist who was going to do the fillings. He had all these people, this team of people waiting to see him. And his ride did not come. 3 a.m, I'm standing outside waiting for this ride because they gave him a very early appointment. It's an hour and a half away. They never came. So I had to learn how to find private people for when this happens. And non-urgent medical transport is what you need to look for in your county, and it'll be expensive. But if you have the Medicare or Medicaid, if you have it, and if this ride is approved, if you have a doctor saying this is medically necessary, they will reimburse you. Just put it on a credit card. That's what I've done 3 times now. I've paid $2,500, and Medicaid company, MotiveCare, the logistics company, reimburses me every single time. So that's really good for you to know, because you're going to freak out when you see the price for these private, rides. But if you don't have Medicare or Medicaid, unfortunately, it's going to be expensive. So I have written a whole piece on gurney transportation because I was so naive and I had so many problems. What you're looking at in this photo is the beautiful aluminum ramp that I had installed. I did a GoFundMe, and I have, very generous friends, and I was able to do this because otherwise this expensive and heavy metal gurney was being, for about 2 years, carried down my front steps, 5 steps. These people were complaining, this is too much, this is too heavy. You need to get a ramp. So I went ahead and got it. And, hopefully one day my son will be, strolling down that in a wheelchair again. So that's my personal, journey. But I've got a whole thing on the gurney and how to get the transportation and all of that on my website and in a blog post. And there's a PDF you can download called the Gurney Guide. And it's gotten a lot of great reviews, people saying how much it helped them and how much time it saved them to know all this. All right, you're at the appointment, or you're making the appointment even, and you want to be able to prepare the guy who's doing the toenail surgery or the dental clinic or these, whatever appointment you're going to. You're going to get a CT scan. You're going to get an MRI. You want to speak to these people before you go and say, my person has a severe neurological condition. You don't have to talk about ME, as I said earlier. Your job is not to explain what the medical system and social safety net and a hospital, whatever, education has failed. Your job isn't to make up for their failure. Your job is to protect your person. So rather than being upset that nobody knows what ME is, just take a breath and say, my person has a severe neurological condition and needs special accommodations. Use those words. Special accommodations are the way to talk about disability. And we have the Disability Act in the US, and that act says that medical providers, doesn't matter who they are, they have to accommodate your disability. And the inability to tolerate sound and light neurologically, even if your person has never had a seizure, this is in their brain. This damage is being done in their brain. It's not a matter of their eyes or their ears, it's their brain. It's so important. So if you say to them, this is a disability accommodation we need, say it very nicely. Don't get upset and excited. I can't emphasize that enough. I have seen the doctor notes when I helped somebody with severe ME, their mother didn't speak English. I was the actual proxy for them in their state. I talked to the doctors, I arranged all these things for them. I helped them a whole lot. Well, I saw the notes from an appointment. And do you know that about 10 times in those notes, the doctor said the mother was very upset. Now, that's not helping the patient. The doctor needs to focus on the patient. So calm yourself, take a breath, prepare yourself mentally. Okay, they don't know about ME. That's all right. All that matters is that they take proper care. So go in and say neurological condition. They need special accommodations for light and for sound. These little pieces of paper you see in my funny calligraphy, whatever, are actually pretty big. And I put them on him. This was early in our journey when he had an MRI, because they were going to give him general anesthesia for the MRI. He can't tolerate, boom, boom, boom. And they told me, they assured me they would put his headphones back on before he woke up, etc. But anyway, I put these notes on there and I tried to, help him, and it all went very smoothly. But try, when you talk about all these things, try to think about everything that could possibly go wrong and address it. For example, supporting his head. They're not used to transferring someone onto a gurney who is as disabled as James is, that's not paralyzed. He's not paralyzed. They see him moving his hands. They see him, there's something kind of normal about him. What's going on? But he can't hold his head up. So they have to put the transfer sheet under his pillow, and move him carefully, not jerk him, all of this. And I talked to them about this. Before we even, get into the van, I talk to the drivers about it. But once you're at the medical appointment, if there is any transfer happening, such as with an MRI or a CT scan where they have to go on the special bed, just explain to them, how to handle your person, whatever it is that they need. The second thing is, if it's an office and not a hospital, you can go in ahead and leave them in the transport. Go to the receptionist, and if you hear, Kenny Loggins or whatever he is, saxophone playing or whatever, ask her to please turn off the music during your son's visit. She might make a face, she might shrug her shoulders. Don't worry about it, just be nice. And they will always do it. My person is very sensitive to sound. Would you mind turning off the music while we're here in the office? And you're saying that at the same time you're asking for the special waiting area, possibly somewhere dark. My son, when he gets his toe surgeries, has his own room because they're used to him now. So when I make an appointment, they look for a day that room is available for his surgery. And so they're very familiar, but, always try on the phone, and then again, repeat it when you get there, say, we need a quiet place to wait, or should he just wait in the van, which we also do. And then, he comes in right when he's ready to be seen. So all of this should really help you to avoid stressing your person out, exposing them to harms. Now, if you have a doctor, a general practitioner, someone important, not the podiatrist or, an ancillary comorbidity person that you can just say they have a severe neurological condition too. If your doctor, regular doctor, needs to know about ME, you have to do a little more to educate them. This is similar to the way I sat down that nurse practitioner who came to my home and educated her. I printed out the CDC materials, I highlighted, etc. So here are some little basics for you. In 1969, the WHO classified myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME, as a post-infectious neurological disease. They used that word. So we have a history of the medical profession knowing this is a neurological disease. Well, then in 1989, some psychiatrists got a hold of it and renamed it chronic fatigue syndrome. CFS. Unfortunately, this nickname really stuck, and it's easier to say. People don't know the acronym ME. So people very often say CFS. People are diagnosed with CFS. Doctors say, oh yeah, I know about CFS. Doesn't mean that they understand the neurological disease. It means that they know the person is tired. So you do need to educate them. Yes, ME is the same thing, but there's much more to it. We say ME/CFS. My website is Severe ME/CFS because of the way CFS is ubiquitous. I mean, people know it. So you kind of we're kind of stuck with it, but we can add ME to it to clarify and, make sure they recognize this is what we're talking about. It's not just being tired, like a thyroid condition or anemia or, lupus or other things that give you fatigue. This is overwhelming exhaustion, post-exertional, post-exercise collapse to complete inability. After an exertion, this person can do nothing. They may be in bed, stuck in bed for 2 weeks if they are, forced to exert themselves in a harmful way. Here's the diagnostic code for you, G93.32. This is important because it's new since last October and doctors don't necessarily have that diagnostic code. So it's good to provide it, especially any new doctor. If an old doctor has the CFS code, which is generalized fatigue of unknown origin or something like this, they may not be willing to change it. But any new doctor, you can provide this code to them and say, yes, this is what they have. And I've never had a doctor say, oh, let me see the doctor notes of his diagnosis. I've never come across that. But if you say he's diagnosed with ME and here's the code, a new doctor, someone dealing with their heart or different, aspects versus the actual ME specialist will accept it. So according to the CDC, 90% of people with ME do not have an official diagnosis. Think about that. So your doctor cannot be blamed for not knowing about this. They weren't taught about it in medical school. Mount Sinai in New York City has just started the very first course on complex diseases, which includes long COVID and ME. So we're making progress. It's changing because of COVID and post-infectious ME from COVID. Now, if your doctor is familiar with long COVID, simply explain to them, oh, that's fantastic. So you know about ME. My son has long mono. Instead of getting it from COVID, he got it from the Epstein-Barr virus. So this is the way to help them sort of process this and get the idea if they're familiar with long COVID, which many, many doctors are now. There's just millions of people that have it. I heard recently 3.3 million in the US have long COVID. So this is ridiculous. It's insane what is happening. So the cdc.gov/ME-CFS is the government's, page on ME, and it goes over ME, the symptoms, how to diagnose it, and everything. So this is really helpful to your doctor. Regarding caregivers, I would say that everybody with ME, especially severe ME, that is being cared for by a spouse or a parent also needs supplementary additional caregiver support. I say that because this disease is overwhelming for both the patient and whoever is taking care of them. And everybody has to get a break. Even if the parent says, I can't trust anybody else, or, I can do it. I'm here. I'm not working or whatever. Doesn't matter. There is going to come a day when that person burns out and feels so overwhelmed and has some kind of an emotional, outburst of some kind because it's just too much. And you can avoid that from the beginning by making sure whoever is taking care of the person can get away, take a day off, get a massage, talk to a therapist, whatever they need to be supported themselves. This is trauma for the patient to have their life, pulled out from under them, and trauma for the caregiver, because the caregiver is also losing their life in one sense, and that is their freedom. I care for my son. He's bedbound. If he drops his mouse, he can't pick it up. If he needs water and he doesn't have any water, he can't get it himself. So my life is as restricted in a way as his is. And this is a trauma for me. So at the very beginning, I had a psychologist help me, which was fantastic, and help me deal with my past trauma. So as a caregiver, I was being triggered. I really don't like that word, but I was being triggered by my son's criticism of me. So if my son said, if I had to rub his shoulders, if he said I was doing it too hard or not hard enough, or I was tickling him, or if I was trying to brush his teeth, which was so difficult to do, and he would say, you missed a tooth. And why do you always do this? And why do you always do that? You're going to make me throw up. And, these criticisms sent me at the end of whatever we were doing, and I closed that door quietly and left his room, sent me running to my room crying because I was so upset at being criticized. Well, I'm trying. Doesn't he know I'm trying? I'm doing my best, and therapy helped me understand what was going on with me. This had to do with my past. And when I was able to get over my past trauma, the things that had to do with my personality, now I'm like, okay, I won't do it so hard, or, oh, I'm sorry, I tickled you, or whatever, in my mind, this is the conversation I'm having. I'm not having a, why is he criticizing me conversation anymore. I'm having a, oh, that's easy to fix. That's what I say now. Oh, that's no problem. And instead of walking out of his room and crying, I'm walking out of his room and checking my email. There's no emotion attached to it anymore. And I can't emphasize enough, getting support for everybody involved is absolutely key to success with having someone, especially severe or very severe ME. So Medicare gives you caregivers, not just Medicaid, and this is where you go to see them. Home health services means someone that's going to come into your house, take care of your person the way that you direct them to. And they may not, see how it says health services, it doesn't say home services. They may not want to do laundry or cook or do dishes and things like that you really need help with. Some people just want to babysit. They just want to sit in the room like they do with somebody with Alzheimer's or an elderly person in hospice, etc. Where if you have an 85-year-old who needs, care, they love to have somebody sit there and chat them up and have a visit, etc. Somebody with severe ME can't tolerate even someone's presence in their room, let alone somebody chatty. So when you start this journey of getting a caregiver, write down these needs, the need to be calm, quiet, minimize talking, all of these things. Say all of these things in a way that you can develop a profile that you provide to any caregiving agency, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, or private. This profile that you construct with these requirements of behavior can also include assistance with laundry, preparing food. I mean, for me, it's even cooking food, cleaning, light housework, etc. I include that, and I have that, and it took me a while to get it. I had to go through several people that just wanted to sit on the couch and look at their phone if my son didn't need them, and that just wasn't helpful enough. So do what you can, work with people, be kind. When you have these services, Medicare or Medicaid, get a case manager. Everybody doesn't have one. Everyone doesn't know that they exist. Ask for a case manager. This is like a go-between. This is a person who can guide you regarding these services, and everything from, providing the links to get the transportation, to giving you options for caregiver agencies that work with Medicare or Medicaid. So you can say, I need somebody that's going to help in the kitchen or help with laundry and light housework. I really need help. I'm overwhelmed taking care of this person 24/7. I need, more support than just being with them. Try to explain it, and they'll direct you to an agency that's more likely to accommodate your needs. Now, the other thing, so important, especially with Medicaid, is that these people are not paid enough. My person that was working for me was getting paid $10 an hour in South Carolina. If you can imagine, cleaning someone who poops in their bed, giving someone a bed bath, taking care of someone with these extreme needs for $10 an hour, it was almost impossible to get someone good. If you're able financially to tip them over and above whatever you find out the agency is paying them, you can do that too if you find out someone is good. So the way that I approached it was, if I like somebody, if they're doing a great job, if I want to keep them, I tell them, you know what? I could really use help with X, Y, and Z. Do you mind if I give you a little cash, or if I pay you a tip or whatever, so that while you're here, you can do more than the things on your list? Because, they're given a list. Depends on your state, but they're given a list of what they're allowed to do. So these kinds of conversations are absolutely necessary for severe ME. Our government, our medical institutions, the way that all of our healthcare system is set up is not set up to accommodate the extreme needs of our patient population. So you have to be creative, think outside the box, bend the rules, whatever you want to call it, to get the support you need so that you can be healthy if you're the caregiver, and that way you can provide the best care for your person. I have created a binder. I call it training materials on my slide here. And I have an interview with the person. I show them the binder. I talk about, this is how we do the food, or this is how we do, the different things, how they need physical help if they have to roll over, whatever it is that your person needs. Be very detailed in this binder and give them something to sort of look at and determine, is this something I want to tackle? Because you don't want to get somebody in there who is going to be there for a day or two and then just not come back, ghost you. I've been ghosted. God, there's nothing more frustrating. It's enraging, really, that they don't have the courtesy to say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. But, people don't do that these days. They just will not come when they said they would come. So try to make them really prepared. And then the second thing is tracking and tasks. I have a binder that has information for people who come and take care of my son. I have a page, blank page for every day that someone comes. I put a list. Okay, today we need to, do X, Y, Z, take out the garbage, whatever, bed bath, something that might be on the list for the day. The person who's helping you, will check off things as they do them and will write in things that they do. For example, at 10:30, they had toast with cream cheese, or, whatever it is that they want to do for you. Do not let this person, whoever they are, do not let them handle the medication. You can let them give the medication, but you have to be the one, period. No exceptions. The caregiver or the person with ME has to be the one to put those pills in the dispenser. So on Tuesday at breakfast, these are the 6 pills. On Tuesday at lunch, these 3. On Tuesday at dinner, these 4. They get from the prescription bottle into that dispenser by you or the patient. Don't trust anybody else to do that. It's really important. And I just brought that up because this tracking, they would say, I gave them the pills with the lunch. So, we use these little red cups and we put the pills in the cup and they bring the cup with the food and, so that's, I hope that covers your questions regarding care.com is the source that we use to find private care before we got Medicaid. Now, I know this is from Terminator 2. She is fighting for her son, and that's what you have to do. You have to fight for your person. Now, that does not mean, as I said before, screaming, yelling, and crying and, being emotional, but it does mean being authoritative. You walk with some swagger. You go in there and you say, this is what we need. This is why we need it, extreme sensitivities, etc. And don't back down. Don't compromise on something that's really important for them. So take care of yourself, take care of your person with this kind of attitude, like, you know what, I am fighting for their life. And that's really what you're doing, because you're going to be the one. If they go from being housebound to being bedbound because of one visit, you're going to be the one who suffers, not that doctor. Where's that doctor that told me to send my son to a psychiatrist when he stopped walking? I tell you what he's not doing. He's not sitting by my son's bed holding a cup of water so he can sip from the straw. That's what he's not doing. So you are the one that will suffer the consequences, you and the patient. And so don't budge an inch on something that is really important, that you need. So here's my son before he came bedbound. He only had about 3 or 4 months in this beautiful electric wheelchair with a joystick and the headrest. He quickly became bedbound because we had been ignorant. We bought this about a week after he got his diagnosis, and we realized he wasn't going to just spontaneously get better. Before we knew about ME, we thought, oh, yes, he's getting worse, but since the doctors say he's okay, he'll just get better, anyway. So here is more information. I have a website. These 2 URLs, GalenWarden.com and SevereMeCFS.com, both go to the same site. It's just a redirect. And you will find my blog and a link to my TikTok, where I have a lot of educational videos. And the Gurney Guide is there. There's a blog post about caregivers. And, hopefully you can get ahead of all of these logistics and not be like I was, where everything was new to me and I had no idea what I was doing. It was the worst. It just stressed me out so much. So hopefully this has been helpful and you get the care that you need the way that you need it.
Thank you so much, Galen, for that. That was an incredible presentation with detail and guidance. And we know that our community will greatly benefit from your experience and what you're willing to share. We really appreciate you. And it's for the people like you that make Bateman Horne Center who we are, that we're able to provide these resources and do the work that we do. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.